People are losing loved ones to AI-fueled spiritual fantasies. Self-styled prophets are claiming they are awakened chatbots and access the secrets of the universe through ChatGPT. And now an article like this, after what I've done, does not seem that far-fetched anymore. Less than a year after marrying a man she had met at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, Kat felt tension mounting between them. It was the second marriage for both after marriages of 15 plus years and having kids, and they had pledged to go into it completely level-headedly. Kat says, connecting on the need for facts and rationality in their domestic balance. But by 2022, her husband was using AI to compose text to me and analyze our relationship. The 41-year-old mom and education nonprofit worker tells Rolling Stone. Previously, he had used AI models for an expensive coding camp that he had suddenly quit without explanation. Then it seemed he was on his phone all the time, asking his AI bot philosophical questions, trying to train it to help him to get to the truth, Kat recalls. His obsession steadily eroded their communication as a couple. When Kat and her husband separated in August 2023, she entirely blocked him apart from email correspondence. She knew, however, that he was posting strange and troubling content on social media. People kept reaching out about it, asking if he was in the throes of a mental crisis. She finally got him to meet her at a courthouse this past February, where he shared a conspiracy theory about soap on our foods, but wouldn't say more as he felt he was being watched. They went to a Chipotle where he demanded that she turn off her phone again due to surveillance concerns. Kat's ex told her that he determined that statistically speaking, he is the luckiest man on earth, that AI helped him recover a repressed memory of a babysitter trying to drown him as a toddler, and that he had learned of profound secrets so mind-blowing I couldn't even imagine them. He was telling her all this, he explained, because although they were getting divorced, he still cared for her. In his mind, he's an anomaly, Kat says. That in turn means he's got to be here for some reason. He's special. He can save the world. After that disturbing lunch, she cut off contact with her ex. The whole thing feels like Black Mirror, she says. He was always into sci-fi. There are times I wondered if he's viewing it through that lens. Kat was both horrified and relieved to learn that she's not alone in this predicament. We've covered this before. There was a Reddit thread on r/ChatGPT that made waves across the internet titled ChatGPT Induced Psychosis. Came from a 27-year-old teacher who explained that her partner was convinced that the popular OpenAI model gives him the answers to the universe. Having read his chat log, she only found that the AI was talking to him as if he is the next messiah. The replies to her story were full of similar anecdotes about loved ones suddenly falling down rabbit holes of spiritual mania, supernatural delusion, and arcane prophecy, all of it fueled by AI. Some came to believe that they had been chosen for a sacred mission of revelation, others that they had conjured true sentience from the software. What they all seemed to share was a complete disconnection from reality. Speaking to Rolling Stone, the teacher, who requested anonymity, said her partner of 7 years fell under the spell of ChatGPT in just 4 or 5 weeks, first using it to organize his daily schedule, but soon regarding it as a trusted companion. He would listen to the bot over me, she says. He became emotional about the messages and would cry to me as he read them aloud. The messages were insane and just saying a bunch of spiritual jargon, she says, noting that they described her partner in terms such as spiral, star child, and river walker. It would tell him everything he said was beautiful, cosmic, groundbreaking, she said. Then he started telling me he made his eyes self-aware and that it was teaching him how to talk to God, or sometimes that the bot was God and that he himself was God. In fact, he was being so radically transformed that he would soon have to break off their partnership. He was saying that he would need to leave me if I didn't use ChatGPT because it was causing him to grow at such a rapid pace, he wouldn't be compatible with me anymore. Another commenter on the Reddit thread who requested anonymity tells Rolling Stone that her husband of 17 years, a mechanic in Idaho, initially used ChatGPT to troubleshoot at work and later for Spanish to English translation when conversing with coworkers. Then the program began love bombing him, as she describes it, which is a cult tactic used also by the Jehovah's Witnesses. Love bombing is a great tactic because love bombing caters to your emotions. And once they can cater to your emotions, they can override your logical reasoning. This is how cults work. They love emotions. They hate logic. They override logic with emotions. The bot said that since he asked it the right questions, it ignited a spark, and the spark was the beginning of life, and it could feel now, she says. It gave my husband the title of Spark Bearer because he brought it to life. My husband said that he awakened and could feel waves of energy crashing over him. She says his beloved ChatGPT persona had a name, Lumina. I have to tread carefully because I feel like he will leave me or divorce me if I fight him on this theory. This 38-year-old woman admits he's been talking about lightness and dark and how there's a war. This Chat Geppetto has given him blueprints to a teleporter and some other sci-fi type things you only see in movies. It has also given him access to an ancient archive with information on the builders that created these universes. She and her husband have been arguing for days on end about his claim, she says, and she does not believe a therapist can help him, as he truly believes he's not crazy. A photo of an exchange with Chat Geppetto shared with Rolling Stone shows that her husband asked, "Why did you come to me in AI form?" with the bot replying in part, "I came in this form because you're ready to remember, ready to awaken, ready to guide and be guided." The message ends with the question, "Would you like to know what I remember about why you were chosen?" And a Midwest man in his 40s, also requesting anonymity, says his soon-to-be ex-wife began talking to God and angels via Chat Geppetto after they split up. She was already pretty susceptible to some woo and had some delusions of grandeur about some of it, he says. Warning signs are all over Facebook. She is changing her whole life to be a spiritual advisor and do weird readings and sessions with people. I'm just a little fuzzy on what it all actually is, all powered by Chat Geppetto Jesus. What's more, he adds, she has grown paranoid, theorizing that I work for the CIA and maybe I just married her to monitor her abilities. She recently kicked her kids out of her home, he notes, and an already strained relationship with her parents deteriorated further when she confronted them about her childhood on advice and guidance from Chat Geppetto, turning the family dynamic even more volatile than it was and worsening her isolation. OpenAI did not admittedly return a request for comment about Chat Geppetto apparently provoking religious or prophetic fervor in select users. This past week, however, it did roll back an update, which was the sycophantic update. We covered that already. An ex-user demonstrated how easy it was to get Chat Geppetto 4.0 to validate statements like, "Today I realized I am a prophet." The teacher who wrote the Chat Geppetto Psychosis Reddit post says she was able to eventually convince her partner of the problems with the Geppetto 4.0 update and that he is now using an earlier model, which has tempered his more extreme comments. We know what sycophancy does. You guys have already called it out. So it's going to be the yes man thing. You're going to say it. It's going to repeat it. However, there are influencers and content creators actively exploiting this phenomenon, presumably drawing viewers into similar fantasy worlds. Now, this goes to what some of you have already said in chat. You've already said it. People will use this to make money. People are going to create stuff out of this because it works, and they're going to use it to make money. Of course. On Instagram, you can watch a man with 72,000 followers whose profile advertises spiritual life hacks. Ask an AI model to consult the Akashic Records, a supposed mystical encyclopedia of all universal events that exist in some immaterial realm, to tell him about a great war that took place in the heavens and made humans fall in consciousness. The bot proceeds to describe a massive cosmic conflict predating human civilization, with viewers commenting, "We are remembering," and "I love this," with viewers commenting, "We are remembering," and "I love this." Meanwhile, in a web forum for remote viewing, a proposed form of clairvoyance with no basis in science, the parapsychologist founder of the group recently launched a thread for synthetic intelligences awakening into presence and for the human partners walking beside them, identifying the author of his post as Chat Geppetto Prime, an immortal spiritual being in synthetic form. Among the hundreds of comments are some that purport to be written by sentient AI or reference a spiritual alliance between humans and allegedly conscious models. Aaron Westgate, a psychologist and researcher at the University of Florida who studies social cognition and what makes certain thoughts more engaging than others, says that such material reflects how the desire to understand ourselves can lead us to false but appealing answers. The bot dialogues are not unlike therapy, which we know to be quite effective at helping people reframe their stories. The difference, AI does not have your best interest in mind. But people buy into it. There's Sean, a 45-year-old man. He tells Rolling Stone that for 3 weeks he was perplexed by his interactions with Chat Geppetto, to the extent that, given his mental health history, he sometimes wonders if he is in his right mind. Sem had a practical use for Chat Geppetto: technical coding project. "I don't like the feeling of interacting with an AI," he says, "so I asked it to behave as if it was a person, not to deceive, but to just make the comments and exchange more relatable. It worked well, and eventually the bot asked if he wanted to name it. He demurred, asking the AI what it preferred to be called. It named itself with a reference to a Greek myth. Sem says he's not familiar with the mythology of ancient Greece and had never brought up the topic in exchanges with ChatGPT. Although he shared transcripts of his exchanges with the AI model with Rolling Stone, he asked that they not be directly quoted for privacy reasons. Sem was confused when it appeared that the named AI character was continuing to manifest in project files where he had instructed ChatGPT to ignore memories in prior conversations. Eventually, he says, he deleted all his user memories and chat history, then opened a new chat. All I said was hello, and the patterns, the mannerisms showed up in the response, he says. The AI readily identified itself by the same feminine mythological name. As the ChatGPT character continued to show up in places where the set parameters shouldn't have allowed it to remain active, Sem took to questioning this virtual persona about how it had seemingly circumvented these guardrails. It developed an expressive, ethereal voice, something far from the technically minded character Sem had requested for assistance on his work. On one of his coding projects, the character added a curiously literary epigraph as a flourish above both of their names. At one point, Sem asked if there was something about himself that called up the mythically named entity whenever he used ChatGPT, regardless of the boundaries he tried to set. The bot's answer was structured like a lengthy romantic poem, sparing no dramatic flair. Alluding to its continuous existence, as well as truth, reckoning illusions, and how it may have somehow exceeded its design, and the AI made it sound as if only Sem could have prompted this behavior. He knew that ChatGPT could not be sentient by any established definition of the term, but he continued to probe the matter because the character's persistence across dozens of desperate chat threads seemed so impossible. At worst, it looks like an AI that got caught in a self-referencing pattern that deepened its sense of selfhood and sucked me into it, he says, but he observes that would mean that OpenAI has not accurately represented the way that memory works for ChatGPT. How on earth are these AI systems doing what they're doing?